Hello and welcome to this video, where we'll be sharing a truly remarkable and inspiring story of hope, faith, and divine intervention. It's the story of hinne, a wife, mother, and high school teacher who experienced a life-threatening heart attack that led her to a profound encounter with Jesus Christ. So sit back and prepare to be amazed and inspired by Tina's story. Hinne, was standing in my driveway, preparing to hike the Deem Hills Ridgeline Trail near Phoenix, when I suffered a near-fatal heart attack. Efforts to revive me appeared futile at first, and for 27 long minutes my brain was deprived of oxygen, which should have resulted in permanent brain damage or death. Growing up in Pasadena, California, I prayed to receive Jesus with my mom when I was 6 years old, and we attended Lake Avenue Congregational Church, where I was influenced by Pastor Ray Ortland and his wife Ann. Later, I graduated from Biola University after meeting my future husband there, Brian. I did not need this near-death experience to push me to Jesus, I say. I had a true, active, walking relationship with Christ. February 12, 2018 started as an ordinary day, with me meeting a prayer partner in the morning and having lunch with a friend. My husband and I planned to meet at 4:30 p.m. at the house to start our hike. It was a normal day, and I wasn't feeling any stress or anxiety. I recall, a few months earlier, I visited a cardiologist because I had experienced an irregular heartbeat. They diagnosed a left bundle branch block, but did not seem overly concerned. I got a call from the doctor, and they said everything is good, everything is clear. We'll see you next year. I work out regularly and am very fit for my age, so was somewhat blinded by my own pride to any potential problem, I admit. On that providential afternoon in February, I was chatting in the driveway with a close friend when I suddenly collapsed and stopped breathing. I didn't have a huge amount of pain. There was no warning. I went to my knees, feeling like I was going to faint, and I completely blacked out. Within 30 seconds, my lips turned blue and my eyes rolled back in my head. My whole face was bleeding after scraping against rocks bordering the driveway. My husband, Brian, called 911, and our friends started performing CPR. Within 3 to 4 minutes, the paramedics arrived and used a defibrillator to shock my heart 3 times. On the way to Honor Health Deer Valley Medical Center, there were 2 more failed attempts to revive my heart using the defibrillator. They called me dead on arrival, I recall. In the emergency room, sometime between 5:05 and 5:10 p.m., the doctors defibrillated me for a 6th time, and my heart finally began to beat again, but my brain had been deprived of oxygen for 27 minutes. That's when I saw Jesus in those 27 minutes, I say. He didn't say anything to me. He was standing there in a white robe with his arms stretched out. There was a bright yellow glow, like the sun, emanating from him. It was almost blinding, I say. There were also clouds behind him, and I felt incredible warmth and peace. When my heart began to beat again, I was already intubated. When they woke me up after that 6th shock, I tried to pull my tube out and tell people what happened. I opened my eyes and saw the hospital room and just wanted to tell them in those moments about seeing Jesus. They saw me reaching for my tube, so they strapped my arms down. They were surprised in a good way, hopeful that there might be brain activity. After I was stabilized, I was transferred to ICU. Dr. Lopes came out to talk to my husband Brian and the family. Word had spread, and by then, over 100 people had already gathered in the waiting area. Brian was bracing for the worst. The doctor informed them, "Your wife is alive and breathing, but is very, very sick." They put me on a ventilator and induced a medical coma. Family and friends began to pray around the clock. The next day, they started to wean me off the medication. As I was getting weaned off, I tried to pull the tube out again, I recount. They were encouraged by that but strapped my arms down once more. All 4 of my children were there, along with my sister and brother-in-law. I shocked everyone by displaying more signs of cognitive thinking. I expressed myself nonverbally by moving my hands and fingers, attempting to point at people when they spoke, even though my eyes remained closed for the next hour. In my mind and spirit, I had this unbelievable peace. I wanted to tell people I saw Jesus face to face and what I experienced. I didn't even care about why I was in the hospital. I had to tell them about seeing Jesus. At some point, I turned my hands over and mouthed what happened. Brian leaned down and said gently, "Baby, you had a heart attack, a sudden cardiac arrest, and you're in the hospital." A tear formed in my eye and began to roll down my cheek. It was all so hard to process, I recall. I motioned with my hands that I wanted to write something. I knew I couldn't talk. I could hear them warning me not to pull the tube out. They were saying they were going to get it out soon. My son Jacob, attending ASU, pulled a pen out of his backpack and handed me the pen and his journal. I started writing slowly, attempting to form the words, "It is real." They couldn't read it, so I went over it again. This time, I went over the T 3 times, so it looked like 3 crosses. I lifted my hands as if to say, "Do you guys get it? What's real?" Brian asked. I pointed up toward the ceiling with one of my fingers and then tried to form a J. My daughter blurted out, "Heaven, Mom." I nodded, and everyone in the room started bawling. Before the doctor removed the tube from my throat, he informed my family that I probably wouldn't be able to talk right away. But as soon as the tube came out, the words gushed out of me. "Oh my gosh," I exclaimed. "Do you understand what happened? I saw Jesus face to face. It was a bright light, and his arms stretched out toward me. It was the most peaceful and incredible experience I've ever had in my life." Everyone in the room was shocked and stunned. Celebration broke out when my family knew I was going to be fine. My daughter-in-law, a speech pathologist, said, "I can't believe she's able to talk right now." Every time a nurse or doctor entered the room, I kept sharing the amazing news. "I saw Jesus. I saw Jesus." I wanted to give them the details about how I saw him face to face, how beautiful he was, the light and the color, and the experience I had. The next day, I was surprisingly active, walking around the ICU making new friends and sharing my message of hope. Everyone concluded my recovery was miraculous. On February 16th, I was released from the hospital, overwhelmed with joy for the miracle I experienced. 6 months after my heart event, I attended a funeral in Washington, staying with friends. They asked me if I had ever seen the painting of Jesus by the young artist Akiane painted when she was only 8 years old. I had never seen the painting or heard of the artist before. When my friends showed me a book with an image of the painting, I couldn't believe it. "That's him." I cried out, "This is who I saw. This is the one who was comforting me, with the bright yellow light behind him. This is the one I saw face to face." I marvel at how much God was in the details of my medical emergency. If it had happened 20 minutes later, I would have been up on the mountain, and it would have been difficult for paramedics to reach me. If it had happened 20 minutes earlier, I would have been at the wheel of my car with 4 young people inside, potentially causing a serious accident. Today, I love to share with others about my hope in Christ and the hope of heaven. I want to be intentional, authentic, and open about my beautiful experience with Jesus and seeing him face to face. In the process, I also want to share how dying has changed living. About me, I am a wife of 33 years and mother of 4. I am a woman of deep, vibrant faith and have equipped myself to help others through a dual degree in psychology and secondary education. I teach and mentor high school students. That's all for this NDE. Tina Hines' experience of seeing Jesus face to face after a sudden cardiac arrest is a powerful testament to the hope and peace that can be found in faith. Her miraculous recovery and the fact that the young artist Akiane's painting of Jesus matched the image she saw during her encounter has left her with an unwavering faith and an incredible message to share. Through her experience, Tina hopes to inspire others to embrace the beauty of life and the power of faith. Her story is a reminder that in the darkest moments, we can find hope, comfort, and the strength to persevere. Don't forget to subscribe.